Welcome back to the channel. In today's deep dive, we're going to break down everything that has been happening with MONAD, MON, its price action, market behavior, dominance trends, and how broader crypto movements, especially Bitcoin, are influencing it. Even though I don't have anything visual to show on screen, I'll guide you through every major data point in clear detail so you understand the full picture. We're going to talk about the price bounce, liquidity shifts, TVL positioning, risk factors, dominance breakouts, Bitcoin retracement patterns, potential resistance targets, tokenomics pressure, and what the next few months could realistically look like for MONAD. So let's jump straight into it. This is not financial advice. Please do your own research before making any decision. So, starting with the current status of MONAD, the token is sitting at around 2.90 cents, showing an impressive 25% increase, both when compared with the US dollar and Bitcoin. For such a young project, this type of rebound is fairly notable, especially after the heavy pullback it experienced just a couple of days ago. When you look at the market cap, it's resting at around $380 million, while the 24-hour volume is approximately $550 million, which is pretty substantial for a coin that entered the market only a week ago. Moving over to data from DeFi Llama, the total value locked, TVL, is around $155 million. It's worth noting that the TVL hasn't surpassed its previous highs. Understandable considering MONAD recently went through a sharp retracement that affected the entire DeFi landscape. And to be clear, it wasn't just MONAD affected. Major ecosystems such as Solana, BNB Chain, and others also mirrored similar declines. The overall drop had ripple effects across multiple chains. But despite this, there's something quite interesting. MONAD has been live for barely a week, yet the inflow of funds into the chain near the end of May was huge. Over $55.5 million bridged, making up more than 22% of total bridge volume. That movement placed MONAD as the second most popular destination for bridge inflows, mainly coming from Ethereum, Arbitrum, Solana, and Base. This kind of early capital flow highlights one thing. Despite price volatility and uncertainty, the hype surrounding MONAD is still very strong. Particularly in the DeFi segment, investors continue to show interest. The chain is new, the ecosystem is evolving, but the narrative hasn't died down even after that intense dip. Now, sticking to what I've been saying in previous analyses, I still hold the view that early 2026 could be a critical period for this project. The reason is simple: the token unlock schedule. As MONAD approaches the 12-month mark after launch, early investors and insiders will be able to receive their unlocked tokens. Historically, this is when many projects experience heavy profit-taking, leading to downward pressure. And to be transparent, MONAD's tokenomics are not the strongest when compared to other top-tier blockchain projects. That doesn't mean short-term gains are impossible, far from it. It simply means investors need a solid risk strategy, especially as unlock season approaches. Now, let's touch on market dominance. Bitcoin dominance recently reached around 59.58%, which is a significant breakout from previous resistance levels near the 59.38% zone. This breakout places BTC dominance at levels not seen since mid-October. This is important because high Bitcoin dominance generally suppresses altcoins. Yet interestingly, MONAD still managed to bounce strongly despite this dominance increase. Switching over to Bitcoin itself, last night Bitcoin did exactly what we expected. It briefly dipped below $86,000, dropping all the way to around $83,889, only to recover rapidly. BTC climbed roughly 4%, pushing itself back above $86,000 and now hovering around $87,000. The next significant resistance zone is approximately $88,500. If Bitcoin breaks this, it could potentially return to levels seen before the current retracement began. And looking at liquidation data, over $800 million worth of longs and shorts got wiped out in the past 24 hours. This indicates a major shakeout event, not unusual, but certainly impactful. Now, let's circle back to MONAD. At one point, the price dropped to around 2.20 cents, which is dangerously close to the 2-cent psychological support level. And I've said this before, you really don't want to see MONAD fall below that range because the project is so new that there is virtually no historical support below it. A breakdown at that point could lead to a much steeper decline. But instead of breaking down further, MONAD bounced strongly. In fact, despite Bitcoin rising only around 4% and dominance pushing up, which usually hurts altcoins, MONAD still rallied heavily. That suggests that the coin was extremely oversold. From its all-time high, it had fallen over 55% in just 3 days, a dramatic drop. As it approached its original listing price, it's very likely that market makers stepped in, reversing the trend to punish overly aggressive short positions. Over the last 24 hours, MONAD managed to bounce around 41%, which is impressive. Anyone who bought near the listings levels or during the retracement likely saw significant gains. The token reached approximately 3 cents, got rejected there because 3 cents is a psychological barrier, then fell back to around 2.70 cents. But it is climbing again. At this point, if MONAD can break through the 3-cent resistance, the next major level to watch is 3.30 cents. Beyond that, the next major milestone sits around 4 cents, which currently stands as the next big resistance area. One thing to remember, because MONAD still has a relatively small market cap, around $300 million, it doesn't take huge amounts of capital to push the price significantly. That's why you're seeing such large fluctuations up and down. Now, let's address something Arthur Hayes recently said. He publicly mentioned that MONAD is not competing with Solana or Ethereum, and honestly, that shouldn't surprise anyone. Projects like Ethereum and Solana are enormous, deeply developed ecosystems. MONAD, on the other hand, is barely a week old in its mainnet phase. It's unrealistic to compare them in terms of scale or maturity. And that's okay, then every chain starts small. But tokenomics is a critical point to consider. Right now, the limited circulating supply makes price spikes easier. But once token unlocks begin, early team members, advisors, and investors receiving tokens, selling pressure could intensify. We've seen this pattern countless times. It's predictable, and it's something investors should acknowledge early. Yet, in the immediate future leading up to the new year, especially if Bitcoin starts moving toward its next major phase, possibly retesting all-time highs, new and hyped projects like MONAD tend to perform very strongly. But again, volatility will remain very high. Big price swings both up and down should be expected due to the low circulating supply and concentrated ownership. Even with the recent 40% rally, it's not surprising. When a token drops over 50% in just a few days, a corrective bounce is almost always going to happen. But for the project to keep climbing, it needs to maintain momentum. A clear breakout above 3 cents is the first step, then hitting 3.30 cents, and eventually challenging the 4-cent region. For now, everything is moving in smaller increments, baby steps. But they matter. If MONAD definitively breaks above 3 cents, momentum could carry it higher. But if it fails and falls back toward 2.20 or below 2 cents, the trend becomes much riskier. Given its current valuation, it doesn't take large whale movements for sharp price changes to occur, so traders should keep that in mind. So to wrap things up, MONAD has experienced a strong rebound following a massive pullback. The hype around the project is still alive, inflows remain significant, and the DeFi community continues to show interest. But its future path will heavily depend on Bitcoin's movement, overall market conditions, and eventually its token unlock schedule. In the short term, volatility will dominate. In the long term, tokenomics could become a challenge. Either way, this is a project you'll want to monitor closely if you're active in early-stage crypto ecosystems. Thanks for watching. Hit like and subscribe for more daily crypto insights. Catch you in the next one. Stay crypto smart.